the fact that we can eat sprouts that grow without soil, without sunshine, without fertilizer, in days, in small areas, and actually get something that's not like, oh, that's okay to eat, you can eat that like it's a TV dinner. But the fact that it's so nutrient dense and so potent and so enzymatically active, that's the miracle. Like, that is a mystery, and it's a miracle. If seeds are there and they're sprouting, it's like love. It's the universe giving us sustenance that we can grow. And if you want to take it and take your sprouts and dip them in sugar and chocolate, you could still eat them. But when you tuned into this frequency of the high vibrational consciousness of the plant, then you intellectually don't need or want the other things.
Doug, thank you. Welcome to the show. How do you define yourself? Because you're so much more than someone who just sprouts. But I mean, that's how I initially found you as a keen sprouter myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I look at myself as an artist, and in an egotistical way, to some degree, a pioneer, in natural health, and a naturalist, right? So I believe in really basics. So I love technology and I love advancements in the expanding universe. But I'm an entrepreneur, an artist, a father, husband.
How did you, going to what you're most, I guess, what you're most well known for, which is you've literally single-handedly, to my mind, started this new sprouting revolution. I understand the sprouting has been around since time immemorial, but well,
Yes,
since plants, but
right.
but but this new wave of what we're seeing now is quite incredible. What you've sort of spurred on, to my mind. What was your initial uh, impetus to go, as you said, a naturalist? It's like what was your gateway to, I guess, living foods and how you are now?
I mean, I saw the impact on my family from eating cooked food, processed food, refined food, meat, dairy, and animal products really resulted in chronic illness leading to death, right? So I saw amputations, strokes, heart attacks, cancer, hospitalizations, and then ultimately deaths of my closest family members. And, when I looked at them, I didn't really put two and two together, right? I just thought like, oh, this is just life. Everyone dies. This is what happens. And then I met someone and they told me, because I thought I was genetically cursed. So when I looked at what happened to my family from eating the standard American diet, and my friend, who I later started a business with, she looked me in the eyes and said, "You're not genetically cursed. You are living a diabetic, toxic, heart disease laden, carcinogenic diet." It didn't make sense to me, right? It didn't register. But when I started to do the research, it all revealed itself very clearly to me. And that was over 26 years ago. So, but sprouts, I had started to eat sprouts over 30 years ago. And so I knew about sprouts, but I always thought of them as a garnish or as a side dish. I never took them seriously. Like, I just loved them. But then when I moved into this environment of the desert, I live at Wonder Valley Hot Springs in the Mojave Desert. It was not only a food desert, it was an environmental desert. And so being no access to food, and then the environmental desert meant it was hard to grow things. I had to figure out, like on my own, how was I going to live? And if you've ever tried to grow edible food, it's really difficult. It's really difficult, especially year round, trying to make things happen, on this, continued basis. It's just not easy. So I decided, oh, well, if I could sprout, that could solve so many problems for me. And I didn't realize the significance of it, that it could literally be eye-opening, where sprouts weren't just this garnish. Sprouts were vegetables, and vegetables are food. So the idea that you could actually live and off of vegetables, this was a transformative concept to me, that, oh, sprouts are food and you could live on them. So I wasn't trying to do a water fast or a juice fast. I wasn't looking for a fad. I was looking for I was just looking for calories that were aligned with my lifestyle. And it turned out that in 1 cubic foot, I was able to grow thousands of calories a day using 6 jars. And that was like, mind blowing. And when I was living on these sprouts, so just imagine it, and I think it's pretty well known, people want fresh. Like even a carnivore doesn't want to eat, old, decaying, rotting, flesh. Like they want fresh, right? And when you look at fruits and vegetables, you want fresh. And I know you're down under. In America, the average leaf of lettuce is traveling 2,000 miles across the country and over a 10-day period. So when it's arriving, it's already decaying, right? So a lot of the life force is out of it. I don't need to make up any numbers. I think it's just intuitive that when you cut something away from its root system, it's decaying and it's losing its life force. When you're consuming sprouts, they are fresh and you get to eat the entire living organism, the root, the shoot, the endosperm, the embryo. Like this is a magical thing that you get to consume, and it's beyond our human comprehension. It is one of the greatest mysteries of the universe, that you can take a seed and add water, and in 5 days, it will increase its volume by tenfold. And for example, when you take the seed and add water, it goes through a metamorphosis similar to that of a caterpillar to a butterfly. And in the course of that growth, say, for example, a lentil. Lentils are already healthy, right? They're already rich in fiber and proteins and amino acids. When you sprout a lentil, you increase the vitamin C by 300%. You quadruple the antioxidant levels. So you're taking something that's healthier and you're making it exponentially healthier. And so when I started to go down this rabbit hole of the sprouts, I saw that, wow, holy cow, like this is incredible. So I started to ask questions like, why wasn't everybody sprouting? And the answers were, well, I don't know about it. But the real thing is that there was no money behind it, right? People know about things that have money behind it. So there are no international sprouting companies. There are no national sprouting companies. It was relegated to a cottage industry on a local or regional basis because of the short shelf life and the low margins, and because it wasn't well known that, and you hear about sprouts, like, I can do a quick search, or you can, but let's just say someone is getting sick in America every day from meat, chicken, fish, or even conventional lettuce, right? But those things are so common that it's not even newsworthy. So, but if someone gets sick or got sick from sprouts, it gave the news, it became clickbait and sensationalism, right? But when I studied the data, sprouts were twice as safe as lettuce and 80 times safer than chicken. So, And especially if you're growing them at home, right? And you're using, a kit, and you're taking a high quality seed, and you're growing it in equipment that you washed with hot soap and water, and you're nurturing it every day. You have something that's very fresh and very safe. So if you don't wash your hands after going to the bathroom, and you have chicken that is coming from a factory with salmonella, yes, like you're risking things that are not safe. But if you follow a protocol of proper hygiene and sanitation and safety, sprouts are safe. Sprouts are nutrition. And if you peel them back a little bit further, sprouts are 20 to 100 times more nutrient dense, phytonutrient dense, than their mature vegetable counterparts. So the fact that no one knows this is worthy of me screaming from the rooftops, which I'm doing. And so it was somewhat of an uphill battle. But like, I've watched the conversation change from mentioning sprouts and then someone saying mold. Now someone mentions sprouts and they go, oh, nutrient density. Like, I've watched that. I watched when, the sprout book, came out in April 20. You can see a peak of sprouting trending on Google, like on Google Trends since April 20, literally 5 years ago. Sprouts have been on an upward, a mobile path globally, even though, I'm here in a small town in the US.
So many points there. I know it's look. I think just to touch upon that thing of the problem with the foods that we currently consume, even if they are plant based, for example, and you're buying them from a supermarket. I think it's 72 hours they lose their life force from being harvested from their source. So that's even if you're getting it almost from a farm straight to the farmer's market, you're probably getting borderline there already with your food already losing a lot of its vital life force that we need to sustain ourselves, which sprouting completely, as you said, solves entirely. Uh, and secondly, when you said I used to view them as a garnish too, it was quite a common way of thinking, like I'll just sprinkle some on top. Where it's only in the last year or so I've actually made them the whole meal. And and what you haven't touched upon yet is like it's almost costs nothing, like comparative
Yeah.
to normal foods. It's so people always go on about raw living foods or even being plant based being expensive, and I'm like, if you buy in bulk, it's probably one of the cheapest ways to eat you could have
Not
on the
even
planet.
bulk. Not even in bulk. You can get an 8 ounce bag of salad mix, which has radish, clover, broccoli, mung bean, lentils in it for 15 US dollars for about a quarter kilo, right? And that will create about 30 cups, 30 servings, of sprouts. So 30, 200-gram servings. And so for like, it's under $1 a serving, right? It's 50 cents a serving US. So it is so affordable, considering people are spending $4 for a cup of coffee, black coffee at Starbucks, right? So you could have 4 servings of this nutrient dense food. And and every day, like, I'm, not intentionally trying to focus on the sprouts. But people ask me questions, I post content, I go on podcasts, I'm doing interviews, and then I'm getting questions. And every question leads for me down the research path. And I'm so blown away with, these insights about, one, and I'll just give you one. It takes 1,500 gallons of water to prepare a kilo of beef, right? And you can grow a pound of sprouts with 1 gallon of water, right? So the numbers are so ridiculous that it actually defies logic, and it doesn't even make sense to most people. So, like, everything that I say is a mic drop, but only if someone cares, right? So, one of the things when you look at the population, people don't want to be questioned. They don't want to be bothered. They're very happy going about their way without being challenged or criticized. So for me, like, I don't want to tell people what to do. What I want to do is invite them to the possibility that they can increase the quality of their nutrition by adding sprouts, and that the sprouts are affordable, they're fresh, they're tasty, they're crunchy, and they're nutrient dense. So you layer them on, there's really so many reasons and so many opportunities for people to consume sprouts, and that's why you're seeing it. But if you think about why isn't someone else doing this, I think more and more people will. And like, I'm sure that anyone who listens to your podcast, right? Because they're self-selecting. And that's what I like. I've gone on big podcasts. I've been on the Rich Roll podcast twice, right? And I'll do any podcast because I'll speak to one person at a time. And it doesn't matter, whether they're on the plane, on the farmer's market, they're asking a question. My mission is to share this information, because what I see is that it's all stacking up. And soon people are going to they're going to go into the supermarket and the grocery store with a different view. Like today, if someone were to count all the items in a grocery store, there's about 25,000 items, on the shelves in the grocery store. 98% of those items are cooked, processed, refined, pasteurized, added ingredients, added colorings in a box, in a can. So the percentage is fresh is 2%. Out of those 2% of fresh items, half of them are non-organic, even in the organic health food stores, right? They're just, half of them aren't even organic. And those, you have things that are covered. You have people that are consciously plant-based, inadvertently consuming beeswax, that coatings that they're putting on apples, on tomatoes, on peppers, on cucumbers. Everything's about how can they preserve shelf life to keep things fresh on things that are already old. So in this conversation, we have the opportunity to look at saying, aha, we can be doing fresh at home, bypassing not just one middleman, but 6 or 7 middlemen. So it's so convenient that you could do it anywhere, like literally anywhere you could grow your sprouts.
When I think of the whole health and wellness industry and the way people don't want to be, as you said, uh, necessarily challenged by a new paradigm, it's them. You look at the pretty little lies that people would rather consume around the supplement industry, which is like God knows what that's worth now. And when you actually dig deep into what they're putting into these things, which is supposed to be helping your health, like petrochemicals for the most part, all kinds of not sure where they're manufactured. It's very interesting to me that mind shift of I need to take something to get better, as opposed to this already exists in nature, and particularly around living foods. It's almost like a psyop to hide eating raw, fresh foods, how good they are for you and how quickly they can heal so many diseases and illnesses. And everyone I know who does it well, like yourself, has an abundance of energy. Like for me
Yes.
personally, it's changed my life, like in how I've awareness, consciousness, but just energetically, I just have so much more energy for my life. And surely that is what most of people are looking for, whether it's in their moldy coffee from Starbucks or
Yeah.
they can sprout.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, health is something that you have to invest in, and there's no instant gratification, right? So, but the journey begins now, right? The journey begins now. And so the level of transformations that I've personally seen of people losing, you know, 10 kilos to 200 kilos, it's possible, but it really requires, a belief and knowledge. So you could take someone. Now, there are people that have legitimately been in a car accident, that have different challenges. But these lifestyle affected chronic illnesses, predominantly um, related to weight management, right? Diabetes, heart disease, obesity, many forms of cancer. These are preventable, reversible through diet and lifestyle. So the more it's becoming normalized, like I'm getting, questions, and I'm not a doctor and I don't pretend to be one on YouTube either, right? When people ask me questions, I'm finding more and more medical doctors, nutritionists, dietitians raising their hand saying, hey, I'm open, to this conversation. I'm open to this dialogue. I just had a call 2 weeks ago with 80 clinicians um, sharing the sprouts. And many of them knew about sprouts, but no one had thought of them from the lens that I was portraying, because in their education, in their curriculum, in their daily lives, they're being bombarded and inundated, with other information, that is, that magic pill, that drip, that shot, that blue light therapy, all of these things, as opposed to the basics, right? Chew your food, eat plants, sleep well, right? These are things that anyone can do anywhere in the world that aren't affordable,
That's a
that
big one
are
you just meant.
affordable.
That yeah. Though you just said, I'm so glad you just brought that up, because I hear often when people consume sprouts or they consume raw foods, and they often complain of indigestion, and that can be a whole. You're going against a lifetime of eating foods which your gut bacteria are used to, cook foods, unhealthy foods. But when I observe a lot of, look, I don't do this all the time, but when I observe people eating, they're not eating consciously, which means they're not paying attention to chewing. So people will chew once, twice, three times and swallow. Of course, you're going to get
Yeah.
indigestion. You're not even
Yeah.
absorbing the nutrients unless you're chewing properly.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that the indigestion and the flatulation and all those things, they will all pass. Like those are the least of people's problems. And I think there's a real benefit. If someone just eats healthy, they'll fill up quickly and they won't have the desire to eat the crap, right? So it's one of the things that it's just change, right? And so if someone has enough of a desire to make the change, there are people that will not get up off the couch except to go to the bathroom or to go to sleep. And there's other people that will get off the couch and run a 50K, right? So, and believe me, running, 1K is hard. You get blisters, you get tired, you lose your breath, but you keep going. So it's whether or not you want to endure the pain, choose the obstacles, and then choose to overcome them, versus doing nothing, and just being, the victim of someone else's movie.
That the pain though for me of not of inaction is far worse than transmuting the pain of, for example, of what you just said, running and so on. Like that pain ends up actually becoming joy at some point. Anyone who's been on that journey of discovering running, for example, like the first few weeks are awful. And then you gradually your body starts giving you the endorphins, and the next thing you know, it's one of the things you look forward to.
Yeah.
It's a,
Well, look, you have to earn the right to health, right?
yeah,
You have
it's
to put forth the effort, to be healthy.
I just want to quickly ask about the seed, the genesis of the seed itself, because it's so miraculous and beautiful when you think of the life force which is in the seed. Because I think we look at like I think the science is obviously desperately important for the times that we live in, for people to hear some of the stats that you dropped on them, for them to realize how beneficial it can be for their overall health. But when we look at just I think we can get too caught up in the mechanistic sides of health as well, and not incorporate the mystery. And when I think that you could get a seed that was, 1,500, 2,000 years old, take it home, put it in water without photosynthesis, leave it in the dark, and it will sprout. That is, there's just such a magic there's just such a magic to that life force. And then if you also then extrapolate that and think that's what you're putting into your body, uh, yeah, just I just want to hear your thoughts on that, like in terms of what,
Yeah.
how
Well,
you feel about it.
I mean, look, I think seeds are complete living organisms and that are in a dormant state. So they're somewhat hibernating. And they are the future, right? Because they contain the minerals of the soil, they contain the stem cells of the plants, they contain an endosperm and the reproductive organisms of the plant. And they're just literally waiting. And normally the process is, if there's a fire and fertile ground, the seed will go in there. But more common is if an animal, bird or land animal, consumes the fruit or the plant, as the seed goes through the digestive tract, it reduces the enzyme inhibitors, the lectins, the phytic acid, and as it's mixed in with the the fecal matter, the waste, the poop, then it gets dumped. Like literally, the vegetable will emerge and sprout from the poop, right? And and that's part of how nature designed itself to propagate and to spread in other areas. So the food tastes good, people eat the animals, people animals eat the seeds, they take them to faraway places, and then they grow. So in the case of us, the fact that we can eat sprouts that grow without soil, without sunshine, without fertilizer, in days, in small areas, and actually get something that's not like, oh, that's okay to eat, you can eat that like it's a TV dinner. But the fact that it's so nutrient dense and so potent and so enzymatically active, that's the miracle. Like that is a mystery and it's a miracle. And it's almost like love. This is a sign, like if seeds are there and they're sprouting, it's like love. It's the universe giving us sustenance that we can grow. And if you want to take it and take your sprouts and dip them in sugar and chocolate, you could still eat them. But when you tuned into this frequency of the high vibrational consciousness of the plant, then you intellectually don't need or want the other things. And I think that's the part of the miracle that we get to experience.
Yeah, it's just bringing it back to that reverence for the food. For me, it's been vital as well. Like eating this way, but then the more I eat this way, the more love I have for the food and the nourishment it gives me, and it's this beautiful loop uh, of support and presentness, I guess, in life. Rather than just a mechanistic need. I'm hungry. I'm going to eat. No, I'm not hungry.
Yeah. Well, terrific. Well, look, I think you're doing a great job, and I'm really grateful that you gave me the opportunity to share a little wisdom, with you and your audience.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate your time. And for everyone listening, your book is the best start for how to sprout. It's on. I listened to it on Audible, and it comes with a download for all of the. You've got how many? It's over 100 pages of how to
Oh
all
yeah, I
different.
mean the
It's got
book is
everything you need.
288 pages, so it's
Yeah.
it's it's a you know it was my pride and joy, and one of the few things that really frustrated me, writing it. So it was just so hard, and I'm
Yeah.
so glad it's out.
It's the sprouting Bible, which
Yeah,
you can maybe the second or fifth edition can be renamed.
yeah. Well, I'll let you call it that. To me, I'll just call it a book. But I think it's important.
It is, and it's you've sparked, as I said, I can see it, it's sparked an absolute revolution.
Well,
Doug,
yeah,
thank you for your time.
thank
It
you.
just where can people find you? Just quickly,
I mean,
I'll
on
include it in the show
Instagram,
notes.
Doug Evans, on TikTok, Doug Evans, or
Yeah,
the Sprout Whiz, and the company, still in the US and Canada is The Sprouting Company.
yep.
And so that's a good place. And the Sprout book is available in English and in Spanish language.
Beautiful. Doug, thank you. I'll let you get on with your day. And it was lovely
Okay,
talking to you.
thank you, my friend. Very well.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.